everyone. This is Faith at Faith and Books. How are you doing? It is Thursday, October 31st in the morning, and I'm going to try and do a wrap-up of October and Victober, and then my TBR for November. October has been a rough month. I was sick. There were a lot of things going on. This week has been crazy. Some of it very good, some of it scary, but it turned out okay. But we had a birthday party for my 3-year-old grandson on Saturday, and then my 9-year-old grandson was in the championship for the Little League baseball, and they won. So that was a really fun thing. But it took a lot of time. We went to the playoff game on Thursday. We were there like 4 hours, and then all Sunday. So anyway, that took up a lot of time. And not Sunday, Saturday. And then Monday, my youngest sister, who has Down syndrome, was sent to the emergency room. She lives in a group home, and I spent the night in the hospital with her. And she was in for 2 nights, but they released her yesterday. She responded very well to antibiotics, and so that's a relief, but that really threw everything off. And the worst thing was I was in that emergency room for hours, and I forgot to bring a book, and I couldn't even read on my phone because it was almost out of charge. And then I spent all night in the hospital just not doing anything. So anyway, I just didn't get all the reading done that I wanted to in October. However, I will say I feel pretty good about accomplishing most of my goals for Victober. So let me go through that. So the first thing that I read for Victober was a Sherlock Holmes story, and I read A Scandal in Bohemia. I don't know why I'm showing you the table of contents. And someone in my comment section had recommended it, and thank you, whoever you were. I should go back and look. Because I really enjoyed the story. I realized that I had seen it because over the summer, my husband and I were watching some Sherlock Holmes from, I forget the actor's name. I think his first name is Jeremy. I guess it was back in the 80s, maybe. Not the newer one, but anyway, and they had dramatized this one. But it's a longer, I don't know if it's a novella or a short story, but it was good. I enjoyed it. And it was neat that it was in Bohemia because in September I'd started to read a memoir by somebody from Czechoslovakia, and they were mentioning Bohemia a lot. And then this was set also in Bohemia, and then, or not set, but the guy who comes to Sherlock Holmes for help is of the noble family, or maybe royal family, from Bohemia. And what was another coincidence was that one of his names was Sigismund, and that is the name of a character in The Doctor's Wife, which was the Victober group read. So there were all these little connections going on. And then I read something else. Did I bring my Kindle down? Oh, I'm not sure. Well, anyway. So that was a good thing, and I finished that early in October. And then I did read Nina Balatka by Anthony Trollope, and I think I've done 2 Victober videos, and this was one of them, my review. So I consider that a positive thing. I want to read more Anthony Trollope, and it was an interesting read. I appreciated it. So those 2 were successful. Then I did read, what did I do? Oh, here it is. Here's my Kindle. Not that I just needed to remind myself, not that I'm going to show you anything on it, but I did read 2 Victober things on this, The Doctor's Wife, which I quite enjoyed. I didn't participate very much in the discussion at all, but I did enjoy reading it. And then I also read the play by George Bernard Shaw, Arms and the Man, which was also, it wasn't set in Bohemia, but it was still in Eastern Europe. It was about I'd never heard of this war, the Serbian, though he says Servian with a V instead of a V, Bulgarian War, which I'd never heard of, but that's the setting of it. And it was interesting. It wasn't as biting as I thought it would be. and I was a little bit confused by it. And it's like a traditional comedy because it ends in marriage or couples engaged. And it was funny, and he was making comments about the absurdity of war. But I enjoyed it. So that was the drama. That was Roz's challenge, and The Doctor's Wife was the group read, and this was the book about religion. That was Kate Howe's challenge, and Sherlock Holmes was the one, the giving tribute to Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. I think I said Alice in the Giant Bookcase before, but I think I don't know which it is. But anyway, that was for her. So two not so successful Victober things were Nicholas Nickleby. I was going to listen to this on audio, but I also like to have a hard copy so I can go back and forth. But because at the beginning of the month, I became very hard of hearing for a few weeks because I got ear infections in both my ears. And I'm older, and I think it just takes a longer time to recover. And anyway, you kind of start to lose your hearing as you get older anyway. So it kind of freaked me out. But anyway, I couldn't stand the idea of putting on my headphones or having to listen to something on audio. And I just started to think that would be good, start using my headphones again. So I read the first chapter early in Victober, and then I put on audio. It had been a few weeks, so I re-listened to the first chapter, and then I tried to put it on in bed, and I just fell asleep, and it just kept going. So I don't know where I am on the audiobook. I just woke up and turned it off, and I don't know. I'm somewhat into the second chapter. I can't talk. Where we meet Mr. Bonnie and Mr. Noggs and who else was it? But anyway, I think I have to get traction on this. I did start it in Victober though, and that was kind of my goal. I just need to, I hope today to maybe go back and listen to the second chapter again and make sure I've got it and try to really, in a dedicated way, listen to Nicholas Nickleby. My goal is to finish it by Christmas or maybe by the end of the year. So that was good. I mean, I did get started, so that I'm considering that a plus. And then, unfortunately, with all the stuff that I had going on, the Sylvie and Bruno book by Lewis Carroll was just one book too many. I got to page 82, but I really want to read it. But it's very bizarre, and every time I sat down, I was like, what is going on? Like, I just couldn't get into the book where I was comfortable. Like, I wasn't into the groove. And so this is a very soft DNF. I want to read it. I just couldn't squeeze it in this Victober. But I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to sit and really read it. So, yeah, that was my one, what I'm calling a failure. I just didn't get to that one. The other thing was, and I forgot to say this at the beginning, my poet for October was Wordsworth. And at the beginning of the month, I couldn't find this book. This is a book that my sister Paula gave me when I was young enough to still have little book plates with my maiden name. And so I tried to read some Wordsworth and did not get very far. So that was kind of a bust too. But I really do want to focus on Wordsworth. So I'm going to come back to him anyway. Oh yeah, I forgot the book that I need for, well, anyway, we're on to that next, when I talk about November. All right, so that was Victober. So it was pretty successful in spite of the fact that everything was crazy this October, which I think I say every October. And I always say every October that I wish Victober was in January, because that's really when I can get a lot of reading done. It's cold and rainy and freezing out, and I just want to sit with a big, thick book and read and drink a cup of tea. And it's not nearly as busy as October is. But anyway, so that was the Victober reading. But I did do other reading as well. So I'm doing an ongoing study of Revelation. I'm behind it now because of my sister. I didn't get the reading done, and they meet Tuesday nights, and I missed that. So, but this is a really, really deep study of the book of Revelation, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours a week of study, and watching a video, almost an hour-long video on it, and then discussing it for an hour and a half. Yeah, it's like 7:30 to 9, I think. And then just going through the workbook, answering the workbook, and thinking about all the questions. And there's just so much cross-referencing with the Bible and also with the catechism. So, yeah, so this is a hefty project, actually, that everyone's trying to squeeze in. And I have to catch up on it. Yeah, I got to work on that this weekend. I'm also still reading The Great Bridge by David McCullough, and I got this is a read-along. They're trying to read all his works. And I was reading some. I was going along kind of steadily but slowly, and then I just stalled out. So I'm only at chapter 11. We're supposed to finish it this month, by today. So I'm just going to read this into November. This is going to be part of my nonfiction November. And what else have I been reading? I'm also behind on the Lord. I'm reading a section of this every month, and I want to finish it by December. So I'm also going to focus on reading this for the rest of this week, maybe into the beginning of the next, to get the October portion read, and then I'll wait till the end of November before I pick it up again to read the next section. So I'm working on that. And then I also read this. This was a really compelling read. This is Therese by Dorothy Day. So October 1st is the Feast of St. Therese. She's a very interesting character. She died when she was 24 of tuberculosis. She went into the Carmelite convent when she was 15, which was much younger than you usually are, but she got special permission from the Pope. She literally traveled to the Pope and asked him if she could get in early. Such a compelling figure. We really know about her because the other nuns in the convent, 2 of which were her own sisters, like her family, asked her to write about herself, just, I don't know, to occupy her while she was dying of tuberculosis. And it was kind of just, they just collected her writings, and they were circulated among the convent and then to the other Carmelites, and then other priests started reading it, and it finally got officially published, and it was like a bestseller. Like, everybody was reading her autobiography, and she was canonized in a very short period of time, and she's now a doctor of the church. So she died at 24, but she was incredible. She was just this old soul that, which is not a Christian term, but who just was so wise. She was just so spiritually gifted. You know, like Einstein was a genius with physics. She was just a genius with spirituality. Dorothy Day is an amazing woman. She was an American she was a communist, but then she converted to Catholicism, and she's the one that started the Catholic Worker newspaper and the hospitality houses that she established in all the inner cities to help the poor and the homeless. And she is on her path to becoming canonized as well. So she was a journalist, so she's a really good writer. This was just a really, really compelling book that made me really rethink my life. Yeah, so this might be the best read of October, and it wasn't Victober, but it was a really compelling read. And then at the very end, I just started this week, I think, this past weekend. Here we're talking about a saint, and this is so creepy about evil. It's We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I still have a few pages to go. I hope to finish it today. Yeah, I don't know how many pages I have to go. 121. I'm on page 121, 146. I hope to get done. It's not a hard read. And boy, I think it's really good. It's so creepy and so well written. Just, yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. I hope to finish it today. So that was October reading. So I started to go into my November TBR. Of course, I'm going to keep up with this, and I'm going to keep up with Revelation, which this study doesn't end until the beginning of December. But another church-related thing that I'm going to focus on in the first couple of weeks of November is this book, The Lambs Suffer, by Scott Hahn. And this is actually tied to the study of Revelation. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And my church, I'm not often in my church's book group, but I'm going to join in this time. You can kind of go in and out of it. And we're discussing this on November 14th. So I got to focus on this. And then, of course, I'm going to keep reading The Great Bridge, and I hope to finish this in November. And I'm also going to pick up the Gulag Archipelago up again and start reading. In September, I got to page 225. I'm just going to keep going through it. It's a very hard read, but I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm so insular in my little bubble of, upper class developed U.S. I live in such a wealthy area, and I just feel like we always need to be aware of the grave evil that can go on in the world. Like, people want to retreat into coziness or just doing their own thing or whatever, but I think that's not a good idea. And so even if something is hard or depressing, I still want to read it. I don't know if I can read it fast. It's a lot. It's very heavy material, but I want to keep plugging away at it, and I want to keep it front and center, even as I'm doing other things and doing a lot of enjoyable things. I want to keep this front and center. So what else was I going? I feel like I'm forgetting things that I also want to read. What was I going to? Okay, I was going to read this, the Lord, Revelation. I mean, that's enough. And then, of course, I'm going to continue with Nicholas Nickleby and, the Faded Pages Book Club. This is for the Faded Pages Book Club. And I think we're reading a book about traveling in Africa. And I forget the name of it, but I think that's our nonfiction pick for November for that. It's that book. And I didn't get, where is it? I also have been planning to read The White Horse by G.K. Chesterton in November. So he was my poet of the month. And a few months ago, I read The Life of Alfred the Great so that I could understand The White Horse, which is a ballad about, or I don't know if it's a ballad, but it's a long poem about Alfred the Great. So I'm going to try and read that too, but I forgot to get that one to show you. I have it in a very nice edition. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting something. I feel like there was more to say, but I don't know. So, all right. So I hope you have a blessed Hallowtide. If you celebrate, for me, it's Halloween today, but then tomorrow it's the All Saints Day, which is a day of joy and prayer, and then it's Day of the Dead, November 2nd, which is especially meaningful to me because November 2nd was my mother's birthday. So I always go visit my family's graves on that day. So yeah, so I love these 3 days. It's not just Halloween, it's 3 days. And I always really appreciate it. Anyway, all right, so I will talk to you later. I hope this wasn't too boring. I better stop talking, and happy Halloween and happy reading. Bye.